Welcome to this multi-location meeting of the Community Finance and Strategic Leadership Scrutiny Committee on the 3rd of April 2025. I am Councillor Phil Rogers and I will be chairing this meeting. Please could you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. I wish to remind members signing in remotely of their legal obligation to have their cameras switched on during the meeting in order to be seen and heard whilst participating in council business. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually viewing this meeting could raise your electronic hand, and for members, me, in the council chamber, just raise your hand. On to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please?
I don't see any, Chair.
Okay, I got one myself. I'd like to declare an interest because I've got a question to ask on item 6B. Okay, I'm a member of Neath Athletic Rugby Club and I'm going to be asking about some of the things that could have at playing fields where we use the facilities. Okay, on to agenda item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any questions you'd like to raise about the minutes of the previous meeting, please? I can't see any. So if you feel the minutes are accurate record of the meeting, I'm happy to propose them. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dacey. Thank you, Councillor Dacey. Thank you. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that these minutes are approved.
There are no indications to the contrary, Chair. The minutes are approved.
Thank you, Alison. Moving on to part 1. Agenda item 4, to consider items selected from the Cabinet Forward Working Programme. As at the moment, there are no Cabinet Forward Working Programme items to be considered. On to part 2, agenda item 5, to consider items from the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. Again, there are no items to consider from the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. Which moves us on to part 3, agenda item 6, performance monitoring. We will now move to consider the performance monitoring items. First up is agenda item 6A, which is the revenue budget monitoring for 2024-2025. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to the report?
No, nothing to add, Chair. We'll just move straight to questions, please.
Thank you, Hugh. I have an indication of one question to start, and that's from Councillor Percy, please. Councillor Percy.
Dear Cadero, thank you, Chair. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask my another question as well, which is a bit more general than the one I indicated in pre-briefing. I'm just trying to sort of get my head around really the reserve movement and sort of overspend position in comparison to the original set budget. So I'd appreciate if you could perhaps either confirm whether I've understood something correctly or clarify if I haven't. So my understanding is at the time we set the budget for this financial year, we expected to have circa 70 million in specific reserves, but we actually ended up having 74 million at the start of the financial year. So we were a bit higher, and we intended to have at the end of the financial year around 54 million in specific reserves, and we're looking to end the financial year currently at 51 million. So am I reading correctly that the overall reserves spending position has increased by 6.8 million over the course of the year? Or have I misunderstood some of these movements of figures? Because there's a lot of figures in different reports. I'm trying to get my head around it. I know obviously we've had several monitoring reports as well, and it's probably compounded by the fact that the estimated positions have shifted. So I'd appreciate if you could clarify that, Hugh, because I'm looking at, you know, this monitoring report and the original budget report and trying to kind of reconcile the position between the two. Diolch.
Hugh?
Yes, so probably better because not all that information is actually in the table to this report, Sean. So if I prepare something which says this was the opening balance, this is where we were going to go on the original budget, these were the changes in June, September, December, so this is where we're going to end up. If I prepare that and circulate it to all members of the committee, it'll give you the answer to your questions. Would that be okay, Councillor Percy?
I think that would certainly be helpful in terms of understanding the detail, but I think just broadly speaking, for us to understand a flavour really, I think of, am I kind of on the right track there in the way I've interpreted the figures, even if they're perhaps not 100% correct, that we have spent, you know, significantly more than we intended to throughout the year.
No,
I'm just trying to
no.
unpick that really.
So we started off with 74 million in terms of earmarked and general reserves. The original budget was to take 23 million pound out of specific reserves, but the movements up until December is to actually put 590,000 pound back into those reserves. So we're slightly better position than we started off with.
I can see, yeah.
Okay, I think perhaps it would be helpful then to have that additional document so we can.
Will do. Yeah, no problem.
And you had another question, Councillor Percy?
Yeah, this was only this was a specific question really, just in relation to the environment saving attributed to recycling boxes and breakages is something we picked up on in scrutiny and environment. It's only a modest figure, but actually the general thing here is more of a frustration for residents as well. But in terms of how it's been presented in the report, it's been picked up as amber, sort of saying it's over budget, but we're going to recover it in other areas of the service. Whilst I appreciate the commentary, it doesn't sound like we have, you know, delivered that saving target from that particular area. You know, I appreciate other parts of the service might have, you know, recovered the position. So I just wanted a bit of clarity on that. Obviously, I don't think Mike is, you know, in the meeting with us, is he? So we might need to pick up the specifics of that in the Environment Scrutiny Committee. But
Okay, Councillor Percy, over to who then for this one?
Given you asked it in pre-brief, I went to ask Mike the question and he came back with the answer that waste collection is operating within budget, albeit the spend on kit remains over budget. The number of boxes will reduce as we dispense with the paper boxes and lids and combine paper with card in the sacks.
Oh, right.
So that's the response from Mike. And obviously going forward, because of the decision yesterday around scrutiny committees, we will now have a performance and overview scrutiny committee going forward, which will mean that you'll have the 4 corporate directors here, as well as me, to be able to give answers to these questions that don't sit within the purview of this committee directly, because it clearly hasn't worked in terms of these corporate-wide reports. And that's been acknowledged by Council yesterday.
Thank you, Hugh. Is that okay, Councillor Percy?
Yeah, all I'll add really, and just you know, is for members to pick up, you know, again outside this meeting, I suppose. But in terms of the specific proposal, you know, the intention of that savings item was to reduce the breakages. It doesn't appear that we have done that, so it is something I think we need to pick up and take back with street care, regardless of whether the overall budget position is fine, because I think that is still an ongoing issue. That's causing some frustration, and I know the cabinet member was quite keen on, you know, putting that as a target to try and you know, improve that problem, because regardless of the cost, as I said, it's a very frustrating position, isn't it, for residents, and then ultimately comes back to us with those complaints.
Yeah, fair point, Councillor Percy. I totally agree with you on that one. Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson next, please.
Thank you, Chair. As I explained beforehand, I couldn't make the pre-briefing, but my question is around home to school transport. I know that it's explained in the narrative that they're aware that the problem is still ongoing. I wanted an update really as to what is happening.
Maybe take us, Hugh? Yeah, Hugh.
I'm not in a position to give that update at the moment, because I don't know myself, Councillor Patterson. So I can ask Andrew and Nicola, Andrew Thomas, Nicola Pierce, to give you a response, or you could ask.
Yeah.
Okay, there we are.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Galsworthy, please.
This is just an observation, anyways. Obviously, do you know, like, obviously when we've had the budgets now in previous committees going forward, we've just had the sheets. I think it's really, really important for, you know, like, obviously just a simple document like this sheets now of the underspends and overspends, predicted or, you know, not predicted, to be actually included in them, because obviously what we had was just areas that we could look at saving money, and sometimes if we'd actually had more around and the reasons behind the underspends and the overspends, maybe as a scrutiny committee we could have indulged into them areas a bit more to look into things.
Yeah.
It's just an observation there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Golson. Yeah, we're all nodding around. We totally agree with you with that. We'll look at that going forward. Yep. Councillor Noel, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not allowed. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to come in at this point, Chair. Am I?
Yeah. If it's a response, yeah.
Yeah, it was only in relation to Suzanne's question about homeschool transport. There has been some movement relating to homeschool transport. You will remember that I was nominated with the Director for Education as being a cabinet member to deal with the issues ongoing. There has been some movement, so if we can provide that to Suzanne and members of the committee quite quickly, I would imagine, following today's meeting. Thank you.
Many thanks, Councillor Noel. Thank you very much. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you. I'm very interested in the school transport situation, and I am concerned that there is not someone here from education who can make a comment. I'm also aware that when we ask things and the information is not available at this public meeting.
Sorry, Councillor Reynolds, you break it up. If you just put your camera off a second, just to talk.
Thank you. I'm afraid I'm out and about, so I'm on the move.
Yeah, no problem. It's break it up. Try again, please.
If I could ask that there would be some way found for information that is provided to councillors outside of a public meeting to be made more available with the minutes and the outcomes of the meeting for public consumption, because we ask the questions in public. There is, these things ought to be a matter of record. My main question on this is, given that there's an education person, whether we can have an update on the schools budget situation and what is known about which schools may be seeking redundancies within their plan.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. You drifted out. I'm going to bring Craig in on this one for the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Reynolds. So I think that's something that is probably better suited actually in the Education Scrutiny Committee. So I think given this type of matters ultimately that you were referring to there, but schools budget, redundancy situations or staffing matters, that would probably now sit within the purview of the Education Scrutiny Committee. So obviously going forward, that can be included on the forward work programme specifically for that items as part of it. The issue that you mentioned about questions ultimately being asked and if they're followed up afterwards, again, absolutely no problem. We can incorporate them in some point of minutes amendments, and that says just to make sure there is that reflection as well at the same time. So it obviously, when we look at this particular committee at the moment, we're looking at the overarching picture in respect of budget monitoring, and of course that's been one of the things we've been trying to address as part of our scrutiny review. So the committee that will have the responsibility now for looking at budgetary related matters such as this will be making sure that there is a presence then of the key stakeholders who need to be in the room then at that particular point. So I can understand where you're coming from, and we can make sure we can address that as part of future minutes as well.
Thank you, Craig. Councillor Reynolds, are you still with us? I know you're struggling with the connection today. I'm sorry, Councillor Reynolds. You're not with us at the moment. We're not getting anything through that we can make sense of, all right? So I don't know whether you want to put it in the chat and I can relay that, all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Rebecca Phillips, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to reassure Councillor Reynolds that obviously I've heard those comments and I'll discuss them with Pam regarding putting them into our forward work programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Any other questions on this? Councillor Phillips, your hand's gone back up, is it? No, okay, thank you. I've got one myself. I was looking through. With the school's reserve schedule, please. I've noticed middle schools, they make up 3 million of our sort of overspend, I would have thought, isn't it? How many schools are involved with middle schools? Because
it's the 3 through 3 to 16 schools.
Yeah.
So it's Ysgol Baglan, Ysgol Brodyr, and Ysgol Cwmbronville.
Okay, thanks. That just seems a lot of overspend on just 3 schools when the rest of the whole primary schools is only just short of 5 million. And I thought the whole idea of building those 2 schools was to save money. So I am a bit concerned about that, to be honest. But there we are. Thank you, Hugh.
Well, that's something you could ask in the education.
Yeah, we'll ask in the education. Yeah.
When the item is
Yeah.
raised. Yeah.
Thank you, Hugh. That's excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions on this item, please? Okay. This report is for noting, so we duly note it. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 6B, the capital budget monitoring 2024-2025. Officers, would you like to add anything additional to this report?
No, nothing to add, Chair. Thank you, Diolch.
Thank you, Hugh. Any questions on this report, please? Okay, it just leaves it to me then. And I'm on to page 49. This is where I declared an interest. I'm interested in Herbert, I am. It's page 49, okay? And I noticed that it's termed race track at Herbert, running track, I prefer to call it. I noticed that, because I'm down there quite a lot, I noticed they've only just started. Will this be obviously moved over into next year's budget now?
Yes, yeah, the budget will be moved forward into this current financial year, 25-26.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just, because it wasn't...
There's been a slight delay in awarding the contract as well.
And the other one on there, I noticed that we've earmarked money for refurbishment of the bar facilities, the Oasis bar in Herbert. Does the bar actually make a profit?
Obviously, it's operated by Celtic, not by ourselves.
Yeah.
The response I've had from them is that the bar is breaking even this financial year, but with the refurb, they hope it'll make a profit next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, please? Okay, again, that report is for noting, so we duly note that report. On to agenda item 6C, the Treasury Management Outturn for 2024-2025. Officers, would you like to add anything to this, Hugh?
No, again, nothing, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on this? Councillor Goldsworthy, please.
Sorry, I am a bit slow coming forward because I'm on my iPad going back and forth to Modgov. It's on the previous one and it's just an over thing. Obviously, you know, like all the grants and that there now. Just for who? No, obviously about like trying to build our communities and the funding is in different departments, the levelling up and all different ones like Paul Hinder's one and whatever. It is all that going to come back more so as in like not like a one pot, but going forward, would it be good to have like ideas coming from like each ward of like things that people are wanting to develop, not whether it's just the parks or anything, but obviously like Simon's got Trevor Glynn up there, you know, the care homes is everything. And it's more of a collaborative approach as building our communities going forward, rather than bits and pieces here, then everywhere. It's like, you know, obviously there's the warm hub schemes and the funding from that. Is it, you know, going forward, I think I'd prefer to see a bit more sort of sharper for the pound spend, building on particular projects, even if like in my ward I had to miss out for a year or two and then have a bit more, you know, that going forward and having a bigger project, more sustainable, rather than, you know, money just going and then no one turning up for some events or, you know, that type of thing, or even like the capital projects going forward too.
Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. Who, this one, please.
The problem with the grants, Councillor Goldsworthy, they come with very, very specific terms and conditions. So, you know, I was asked by another member this week around, you know, could we do something different with warm hubs as an example? And you can't. You know, the Welsh Government grant is very, very, very specific around what you can spend the money on and what you can't spend the money on. Obviously, going back a number of years, you had the members' fund, which was abolished. So that was something that could have been, you know, tick the box that you're talking about, but that's now gone. So, but yeah, taking your point, obviously, you know, if there are things that need to be joined up better, then we need to do our job as officers and make sure we do join things up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if I could come back for that, Chair.
Certainly, Charlotte. Yeah.
I think the key word you just said for there now is obviously Welsh Government. But again, even though they give money out, are we actually going back to Welsh Government and saying, look, you've given us this budget, and yes, I appreciate, you know, this, but surely it would be better spent doing something different. So again, communication sometimes between Welsh Government and local authorities isn't the best, especially when it comes down to spends. So again, is that something else we could look at going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. The difficulty you've got is that these specific grants are there to deliver specific ministerial priorities. By the time they get voted through the Welsh Government budget process, it's too late for us, particularly as officers, to actually persuade Welsh Government officials to change things. Now, there was a drive years ago, obviously, to move as many of these grants as you could get into the revenue support grant to make it more local decisions, but still not going to get away from the fact that ministers of MSs will want to deliver specific things. So, you know, I can see Councillor Noyle's got his hand up. So I don't know whether, sorry, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Noyle, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Hugh. Hugh didn't say it, but it was me that asked that question about warm hub grants this week. You'll remember, Charlotte, that I mentioned that I mentioned at full council just a couple of months ago regarding the budget when we were talking about that and grants specifically. And he was providing me with the terms and conditions of the warm hub and the food poverty grants. I certainly think that those aren't working in their current guise and perhaps should be something different. And he was quite rightly, I suppose, identified that we probably need to lobby Welsh Government as politicians, as councillors, to say, look, these grants that you're providing us funding with, thank you very much, but actually it would be better if they were more open-ended or they were more aligned to something else in terms of what they do. I think that's an important point. So what I was going to do is, Hugh and I only had a conversation with that just a couple of days ago. So I want to put a letter together that we will write to Welsh Government and the appropriate ministers and cabinet secretaries to say all of those things that you just quite eloquently said it there, Charlotte, I suppose. In addition to that, get your point regarding local members and priorities in our wards. And you will know that the £5 million neighbourhood improvement programme that we've got ongoing seeks to do exactly that. So what we're trying to do is get an idea from ward members as to priorities that you have. They may be not able to be taken forward, you know, for legal reasons or maybe other issues that don't allow us to do that. But certainly, you know, and I've been frustrated for several years with this, is it's us as ward members who have and see those specific issues on a day-to-day basis. You and I have spoken about this, Charlotte, and I think we need to be involved in the process as well as the officers. Not taking anything away from the process the officers do, and they will be able to advise us accordingly and drive us in the right direction. But we need to be part of that process as well. So the neighbourhood improvement programme does that. Whether we can link that in with other grants, specific grants or not as well, I'll be writing to whichever cabinet secretary covers those specific grants for those items which is discussed there. And I would welcome if anybody else wants to get involved in that. We're happy to do it as a cross-party lobbying exercise to Welsh Government. Obviously, that will hold more weight. But Charlotte, maybe you can discuss that with the Labour group, and I can bring it forward from the coalition, Rainbow Coalition group as well. Would that be okay?
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Noyle. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I think all councillors would like to have it better directed, the money better directed. I think, and so I think that sounds like a great idea going forward. Yeah. Are there any other questions on the Treasury management outturn? Always a popular one, this. Yeah, you always have loads of questions on this one. Okay, seeing that there aren't any on this, this one is following scrutiny. We now note the report, so it's from noting. On to part 4, agenda item 7. Any urgent items at the discretion of the chairperson pursuant to section 100B A 6B of the Local Government 1972 as amended Act. You'll be pleased to know there are no urgent items. So I think that concludes the business for today. Many thanks to the officers for your answers and feedback for various questions today, and many thanks to all councillors for joining us, all the members for joining us this afternoon, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.